I no send you. All of this
Mental Health Monday.
Hello there. Join us Mondays to Fridays, 7:05 a.m. for newspaper reviews, headlines, analysis, and comments on your urban lifestyle station. High Impact 102.1 FM.
Impact Radio 102.1 FM. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the newspaper review, where we get to analyze all of the stories that made front page in some of the dailies that we have with us today. Over the weekend, lots of atrocities, and I say atrocities because a whole lot of lives were lost over the weekend, and it was devastating for so many people, because we had back-to-back issues where we saw over 100 persons killed in Borno, Sokoto, Katsina, and Edo State. Also, there was killing of 8 NSCDC officers, the abduction of a Chinese national in Edo, and of course the kidnapping of passengers at the Benin-Iyere Oluku Road, and the slaughter of 5 soldiers and 58 civilians in Borno. And all these issues are not isolated issues. All these issues are issues that we get to hear every now and then, every single day in this part of the world. And insecurity continues to plague Nigeria as the day goes by. And this is how I welcome you to the newspaper review right here on Impact Radio 102.1 FM. My name is Uche, Okorie, and of course you are welcome to the show. You can always be a part of this conversation if you reach us on 0907-224-5018, 0907-224-5018. That's the number. You can reach us via calls and via WhatsApp, and definitely you can get to share your views on that particular line. Of course, we are streaming live on YouTube at Impact 102.1 FM, so go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notification button so you get to know whenever we are live right here in the studio. Okay, moving straight to the very first paper of the morning, and we will be looking at the Punch newspaper. No much stories on the Punch this morning. This one has to do with Nupeng versus Dangote. If you've been, used to the stories for the past few weeks now, where we've been hearing stories about Dangote supplying directly to filling stations, and Nupeng doesn't seem to have any of it. We see Falana being one of the persons who is also in support of Nupeng's stand, why he calls the federal government to call Dangote to order. I think we're going to see that in one of the other papers this morning. But let's talk about this one on the Punch. And it says, union insists on strike, meets FG others today. This story you find right here on page 21 of the Punch newspaper this morning. It has a rider to it. It says, Labour Minister begs union to shelve industrial action. Marketers vow to shut filling stations. Back Nupeng. Obviously, this is going to be some story that we will get to see in the coming days, if not the coming weeks. But first and foremost, there will be a discussion with the federal government today, as well as other, important bodies in the petroleum industry, and I'm sure once all of this happens there are going to be so much information which we will get to talk about maybe tomorrow on the paper review, as so much will unfold later today. Just right underneath the big story, we get to see an image of the Ukrainian government building in Kyiv on fire following an overnight attack by Russia. The Russia and Ukraine war still ongoing. So, yeah, the world is literally on fire. And it doesn't seem like there's any quenching of the fire anytime soon. Natasha to resume Senate after London trip. This is according to our lawyer. Page 14 is where that story is. Nigeria strengthens to 1,514 naira per dollar, nears 5-month high. This one is on page 23. That is a beautiful one because hey, it's not every day we get to hear that the naira to dollar continues to strengthen, but I think we will be more pleased if it reduces from 1.5 to about 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, or maybe up to about 200 naira to a dollar. So that will mean our economy is stronger and way better than what it is right now. Just beside the nameplate, the Punch newspaper this morning, lending rates may fall as inflation eases. This is according to the CBN, and everyone is waiting and hoping that happens. And that's the much we can take for the Punch this morning. Impact Radio 102.1 FM. The newspaper review is what you are listening to. In case you are just joining us, well, you are still right on time. As we have looked at the Punch newspaper this morning, we are moving on to the Daily Trust newspaper. And the Daily Trust has this one. And it says, schools resume amid biting economy. Schools resume amid biting economy. And I think this one is for almost every parent out there who still have their kids in school, and it is not easy for most of them, as many are complaining that there isn't enough to make sure that the kids go back to school. Many are hoping enough comes. Many are hoping that the schools will even tender a bit of patience, and so that once the students resume, there won't be any hurry to ask for them to pay fees and all of that. But you also remember it takes money for these schools to actually operate, and so therefore if the school fees doesn't come in, how then will the students get the best of education that will be offered by these organizations? But hey, I guess everybody just has to be considerate of one another and understand that the economy is in a terrible place right now. But with all the signs we've seen, with the CBN talking positive, with the dollar being stable for 5 months, who knows? Maybe, just maybe, the nearest future has something bright awaiting us. So I wish all parents good luck in terms of sending their kids to school. Some will be resuming today, some others will be resuming on the 15th, if I'm not mistaken, and so it's just a few days to that 15th, and so good luck to you all as school resumes. Right underneath that story, you get to see image right here, and this image happens to be displaced people and some of their destroyed houses after the Boko Haram's attack at the Darhaunjunha community in Bama local government area of Borno State on Friday. These were part of the killings I spoke about when I started the show. A really, really sad one. And hopefully, the government gets to do more so as to secure the nation, as insecurity seems to be the biggest issue we face right now, and I say it's the biggest issue because it has its ripple effect to every other thing that we face in the country. It's due to insecurity. We do not have a lot of farmers in the farms, going to make sure that there's food in the country, which has led to food inflation. It's due to insecurity we're getting to see some of our economy in shambles, destruction of pipelines, destruction of food crops, so many destructions going on due to insecurity. And so therefore I believe and I think everyone else also believe that if insecurity is nipped in the bud as soon as possible, it will go a long way to changing the Nigerian situation overall. It's a real disaster. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of Nigerians who are living right now in IDP camps. So many of them as much as 8 years, 9 years, as much as to a decade. They do not know where their homes are anymore. They do not even know what it looks like. Some persons do not even have an idea of what their house used to be like or how to get back to their homes. And it's really sad. And just to say that just on Friday in Borno State, more persons are now displaced. It means more IDP camps would have to open. Sad situation. Sad situation for a country which is supposed to be the giant of Africa. This is not how giants move. This is not how giants move. Just underneath that image, you get to see this one. It says, how Boko Haram killed 63 in Borno. How Boko Haram killed 63 in Borno. This is according to survivors. This one is on page 5 of the paper this morning. Underneath that one, workers to FG, 70,000 naira minimum wage insufficient. Workers to FG, 70,000 naira minimum wage insufficient. You have the story on page 32 of the Daily Trust, and this reminds us of the fight for the minimum wage, which took place, I think, like last year. And I could remember when discussions were made where we were talking about how maybe, just maybe, 17,000 shouldn't have been an agreed amount for the NLC back then. And just a few months or probably a year later, we are here again talking about 70,000 naira minimum wage and how obviously it's not enough. But let's see how that one pans out between the NLC and the federal government. Beside that one, fuel scarcity looms as tanker drivers begin strike today. Page 7. Yes, in case you just joining and you're wondering why that might be happening, there's a face-off between Nupeng and Dangote. And so many Dangote trucks has been, are in place for Dangote to, send fuel directly to the filling stations, and the marketers are not having it. Nupeng is not having it, and which is why there's a possibility of strike happening today. But until after the meeting with the federal government and the stakeholders in the petroleum industry, we can't be sure if indeed that strike will take place. Federal government threatens X over anti-Tinubu post. Okorie vows resistance. Okorie vow resistance. In case you've not seen that post, in case you've not seen the supposed threat by the federal government, you need to go look at that one on X. The DSS official account has the letter, displayed on X, and which was posted a day ago. So in case you want to find out, with some, bringing out some conspiracy theories here and there, talking about maybe it's a move for something about X, which you won't hear from my mouth. So many conspiracy theories. All you need to do is keep your eye out there. Put your eye on X, find out what's going on. Okorie has not deleted the tweet as of the last time I checked, and so I do not know if he has done so now. But according to the papers, he vows resistance. And the federal government has spoken directly and sent a letter to the management of X. And so let's see how that one pans out in the coming days. Underneath the nameplate of the Daily Trust, gunmen kill 23 in Katsina, Kaduna, Plateau, Kwara, Niger. You find this story on page 6 of the paper. Finally, on the paper right here, this has to do with the Daily Trust as its Board of Economists list strategies to combat poverty. I guess this is one that so many will want to take a look at so as to know ways at which Nigeria can combat poverty. And I think there have been so many ways listed over the years, I think since independence, on how we can combat poverty, and it seems like it only getting worse. Like I've always said, on paper, Nigeria has all of the right principles, but the only issue we keep facing is actually implementation. That's the much we can take for the Daily Trust. Impact Radio 102.1 FM, the newspaper review, is the show you are listening to, where we get to analyze all of the stories that made front page in some of the dailies that we have with us today. 0907-224-5018. That's the number you can reach us on WhatsApp, and your normal calls for us to get to relate and for you to get to share your thoughts on the happening in the country, or basically on stories that made front page of the paper this morning. We're streaming live on YouTube at Impact 102.1 FM, so go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notification button so you get to know whenever we are live right here in the studio. Moving on to the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Dangote Nupeng face off. Federal government moves to avert nationwide strike. The story which I spoke about just on the Daily Trust. So let me give you a couple of riders according to the Vanguard and how they report the story this morning. It says summons fielding parties to emergency meeting today. Oil workers disown direct trucking drivers association. I take that one more time. Oil workers disown direct trucking drivers association. Say body creation of union busters. NLC rallies state councils, industrial unions for showdown. Falana ask FG to call Dangote to order. It's just a wrap of the issue between Dangote and Nupeng. Dangote wanting to supply directly to fueling stations. Nupeng have saying no to it, and of course NLC right behind Nupeng. So we'll see how all that pans out in the nearest future. You just have to keep your minds ready that there might be or there might not be a strike in the oil industry. Hopefully there won't be anyone, and these issues will be resolved amicably. Underneath the big story this morning, you get to see the European Business Chamber Nigerian, that's Euroham, the director, and so many other persons just right here with the CBN governor, Mr. Cardoso. Underneath that one, interest rates, manufacturers look beyond banks for survival. Page 23 is where you get to see that one. Remember what we always talk about interest rates in this part of the world. Our interest rate is at an amazing double digit, over 27%, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, I beg your pardon. 27% interest rate, double digits, which is so high. As of 2016-2017, Nigeria was running 2017. Nigeria was running at 13 to 17% interest rate, which experts as of that time was talking about the impossibility for the Nigerian economy to grow at that particular interest rate, being a double-digit interest rate. And now we're at 27%, and and you wonder how that growth is going to come, or how soon that growth is going to come, because the manufacturing industry are complaining. They're finding it hard, to go to banks to lend money at that alarming interest rate. Not to forget how bad power supply is. For some persons who find themselves in band A, are beautiful, but you won't expect industries to see it the same way as you, because the amount of money at which they consume, you can never imagine from being a private owner of your home, because the difference is so high. And so therefore they have no other choice but to revert sometimes to fuel. And you and I know how expensive it is. Or is it diesel too now? How expensive it is. So being a manufacturer in today's economy in Nigeria, man, it's quite difficult. It's really quite difficult. And that is why right here the manufacturers are saying they are looking to survival beyond banks. Beside that one, LG funds, Osun NULGE ones OAGF, CBN over plot to preempt the Supreme Court. Page 10 is where you will see that story. Remember, the Osun local government have not received allocations, and so the case has been drawn to court. But right here, the Union of Local Government in Osun State are warning the CBN as well as the OAGF not to preempt the Supreme Court. I believe the Supreme Court is supreme for a reason, and justice will be served on that particular case. But it's one for us to look out for in the coming days. Other stories right here, just above the nameplate of the Vanguard newspaper. United Nations Atiku Obi Ndume rage over killing of 63 in Borno, demand probe. One rider to that one, as Governor Zulum visits affected communities again. Page 13 is where you see that story. Insecurity. Above the nameplate, NLC FG workers demand minimum wage review. Page 9 is where you will see that one. Finally, on the sports corner of the Vanguard newspaper, 2026 World Cup qualifier was Osimhen out of South Africa clash. And yes, the Super Eagles find themselves on third position right now at the World Cup table, the group we actually find ourselves in. A point behind Benin Republic, who finds themselves on second. A disgraceful 6 points behind South Africa, who finds themselves at first. But we get to face South Africa tomorrow, and when we do face South Africa, it's an opportunity for Nigeria, if they win, to place themselves in position to be able to take back that number one spot from South Africa, because at that point it will mean they top us with only 3 points and 2 games to go, which means it's still open. But if South Africa gets to draw that game, it means they get to qualify automatically to the World Cup, and Nigeria still has 2 games to actually get to take second place in that group, which I believe second place they get to play playoff or maybe direct qualification. Sorry, my sports activation is not activated yet this morning, and so we look forward to tomorrow. We look forward to the Super Eagles being super again. Let's see how that one pans out for them. Good luck to the Super Eagles tomorrow. A sad one that Osimhen won't be playing, the star striker of the Super Eagles. For some persons, maybe not so sad, as they think, as we saw analysts talking about how the team improved in the second half of the game in the absence of Osimhen, as the all-ball to Osimhen thingy wasn't seen as much as it was seen in the first half. Who knows? Maybe that could be like a good sign to give opportunity to the to other strikers to get to prove something come against South Africa. But obviously, Osimhen will be a huge miss because there's no defender that gets to see an Osimhen coming and is not worried about him scoring a goal. So let's see how all that pans out for the Super Eagles tomorrow. And that's the much we can take for the Vanguard this morning. On the final paper of this morning, we will be looking at the Guardian newspaper. And the Guardian shifts sides to something completely different this morning from the other papers which we have looked at. And it's talking about National Grid faces 5.6 trillion naira revenue loss as premium customers exit. Page 6 is where you get to see that one. And I think you need to look at that one for you to get all of the detail. But when premium customers leave, well, I guess other customers will have to become premium then. I never knew we had premium customers in the electricity industry. Maybe it has to be those ones who are in the manufacturing industry, the banking sectors, those ones who tend to pay the huge amount of money. Because 5.6 trillion naira revenue loss, that's huge. That's really, really huge. Other stories right here. But before we look into that one, The Guardian has some sort of graphic for you to better understand what it's talking about. It says invoice settlement and power sector subsidies overview. It says FG's total subsidy liabilities stand at 5.6 trillion naira as of August 2025. And so you can guess who the premium customers are right now. Anyways, other stories which you get to find right here on the Guardian newspaper. Mayhem as thugs invade rally for Obi Roads Vivo in Lagos. You find this story on page 5. Over the weekend, we saw the governorship candidate under the Labour Party, who I think is now in the ADC. I'm not certain because I don't think there has been any formal saying, or probably the event which was invaded was the formal saying, because he was there with the ADC and he complained about how their venues were closed down and they got to see a venue which they even paid for being used by the opposition party the next day, why they were not able to even get to use it. And at the end of the day, they got to use the last place, which because they made about 4 free alternate venues from the main venue which they had, and the 3 were shut down, and it was the 4th which they had no idea about. They got to do their meeting. They accused the police of negligence and said the police as well as APC thugs were in cahoots so as to destroy their event place and make sure that their events do not hold. Also accusing the police and the thugs of the APC for wanting to change Lagos to a one-party state. Huge accusations if you ask me, and it needs to be looked into. Underneath that one, prominent Nigerians push for electoral reforms ahead of 2027 polls. Page 29 is where you will see that one. Insecurity. Northern leaders demand state of emergency, sack of service chiefs. Page 6 is where you will see that one. Is the insecurity situation in Nigeria enough to declare a state of emergency yet? Especially in most of those northern states? Maybe, maybe not. But the northern leaders tend to think so. But who are these northern leaders who are saying this? Page 6 is where you get all of that detail. Army neutralizes 4 terrorists, arrests 64 suspects in nationwide operations. You'll find this one on page 8. Parents groan as schools resume. Imo outlaws some practices. You find this story on page 29. That's if you want to know all of those details. Other stories right here, just underneath the nameplate of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Dangote Nupeng face off FG urges coalition. Dangote Nupeng face-off made a mistake. FG urges caution, not coalition. You find that one on page 3. As caution indeed is really, really needed, because you know what the saying says: when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Because once this fight continues, obviously it's going to be the people who do not have access to fuel, who do not have access to transportation, because of, obviously most of the vehicles will be packed in filling stations, hustling for fuel. So more needs to be looked at, so as the Nigerian persons, the Nigerian people, the citizens do not get to suffer the clash between Dangote and Nupeng. Okorie CSOs push back as DSS ask X to delete anti-Tinubu tweet. You find this story on page 3. And finally, customs exempt $300 parcels from tax as cargo owners decry duty payment disruption. You find this story on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper this morning, and that's the much that we can take for the Guardian this morning. And with that comes the end of today's edition of the newspaper review right here on our Impact Radio 102.1 FM. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone who tuned in, and want to also say Nigeria is in a precarious situation right now, and it takes every single one of us as Nigerian to make sure that Nigeria becomes a better place. That is to say, in whatever position you find yourself, in whatever place you find yourself as a Nigerian, continue to do things that you expect the leaders to do. Continue to act the way you expect every good Nigerian to act, and maybe it will rub off on every other person, and all of us will start acting good, and we can get a better nation. You know how FRSC say when you're driving on the road, drive like you're the only sane person? Well, if you're a Nigerian, act like the only sane Nigerian wherever you find yourself, and maybe Nigeria will get better for what we want it to be. And that's how we call it an end to today's edition of the newspaper review right here on the station, your urban lifestyle station, our Impact Radio 102.5 FM. My name is Uche Okorie. Did I say 102.5? I'm sorry, 102.1 FM. Uche Okorie is my name. Have yourself a beautiful, beautiful Monday.